Welcome to the November C&W Quick Bite. Today we will be sharing information about wintergreen. Not the wintergreen flavor that is commonly used in gum, chapstick, and holiday baking, but I'm talking about cool weather leafy greens such as kale, chard, mustard greens, and collard greens. In Kansas, we have a short growing season, but despite the cool weather, we can easily grow winter greens into late fall because they thrive in cooler temperatures and are fast growing. And a light frost actually can make some kale varieties taste sweeter. At C&W, we have a grow tower. And just like some of our schools and childcare centers, we grow kale, Swiss chard, and arugula. Now, some of you may feel that kale is so yesterday, but don't dismiss kale just yet. With supply chain disruptions, romaine lettuce and spinach and other dark green vegetables may be hard to purchase and serve in your program. So give kale and chard a try in your programs, and here's why. First, Swiss chard actually has a mild flavor, even milder than kale and spinach. You may want to remove the stem before serving if you're using in a tossed salad because the stems are a little crunchy. Shown here are two types of Swiss chard. We have the red Swiss chard. You can see that it has a red stalk. It's beautiful. And we have the yellow Swiss chard. And you can see that the stalk is quite a bit lighter. If you want to ease into serving Swiss chard, I'd recommend serving the white or the yellow stem Swiss chard because these two types don't have the bright red veins in the leaves and aren't as noticeable as the red stem chard. So you can see when you compare both of these. I think the red stem Swiss chard looks beautiful in a tossed salad, but kids don't really care about how beautiful a salad looks. And the red veins in the leaves may look suspicious to children that are hesitant to try new foods. If you're using Swiss chard in place of spinach in a cooked dish, it's fine to leave the stems on. That earthy flavor of the stems isn't quite as noticeable. You can also leave the stems on the kale if you're using in a cooked dish. Otherwise, you'll want to make sure to remove the stems from kale because the stems are a little tough, a little chewy, and somewhat fibrous. Both Swiss chard and kale have a great refrigerator life when stored properly. And winter greens like kale and Swiss chard are packed with nutrients such as vitamin A, vitamin K, vitamin C, iron, magnesium, potassium, calcium, and fiber. Winter greens also contain the phytonutrients lutein and zeaxanthin, which have been found to decrease the risk of certain eye disease. Now, baby greens in general are more tender and have a milder flavor. So serving baby greens such as baby kale and baby spinach would be a good place to start if you want to introduce green leafy vegetables into your menus. The downside to most baby greens is that they don't keep quite as long in the refrigerator or the cooler than the more mature greens. And finally, winter greens are versatile. You can serve them in a tossed salad, soup, or even a pasta dish. Now, you can't do that with romaine lettuce. So let's talk about how to prepare winter greens. One of the most convenient ways to prepare winter greens is to purchase the pre-washed, pre-cut bags of greens. Many pre-washed greens have been triple washed so that there is no need to rinse the greens, and rinsing actually increases the risk of cross-contamination. You can also grow your own in a garden or in your grow tower, or you can purchase bunches of whole-leaved winter greens, just like what we have on the tray here. Depending on how you plan to use the winter green will determine whether or not to leave the stem on. Now, to remove the stem, it's actually pretty easy. You can simply fold the leaves over and take a knife and then just cut right along the spine. And there you have it. Or if you'd like to get children involved, the leaves actually tear really easily from the spine. There we go. Super simple. All in one. Now, you can also freeze winter greens. If your garden or your grow tower has produced a bounty of winter greens, then winter greens can be blanched and then frozen for later use in pasta dishes and soups. So to incorporate winter greens into your school or childcare menus, consider one of these options. Well, one of the simplest ways is to gradually mix into tossed salads, Since wintergreens do have a stronger flavor than romaine lettuce, start by cutting or tearing into smaller pieces. You can even cut into tiny little strips if you want to take the time to do that, but simply tearing works. If using kale, try the baby kale or the curly leaf kale, as the leaves are just a little bit more tender on these two varieties. You can also add wintergreens to soup. Now in this example that we have here, we have chicken noodle soup, and we've used a mixture of kale and Swiss chard in here. Another tip too, if you are wanting to add your wintergreens to soup, is these tend to work really well with soups that have a variety of colors and a variety of textures, because then they're not quite as noticeable. In this chicken noodle soup, although this chicken noodle soup is absolutely delicious, the wintergreens kind of stand out a little bit more, okay? Next, you can try using wintergreens in a smoothie. And we have prepared a tropical smoothie today that contains frozen bananas, frozen pineapple, orange juice, and kale. 4 ingredients. So as you all know, smoothies are creditable in both CACFP and school nutrition programs. And smoothies really are a great way to introduce new fruits and vegetables to children through nutrition education activities, and are also popular with students and children of all ages. Remember that fruits and vegetables are credited based on the volume after they have been blended or pureed, and count towards the juice limit in both CACFP and schools. So thanks for joining me today, and for recipes and tips on how to incorporate wintergreens into your program menus, make sure to check out the following resources.